Now that we've already talked about how to find the topic of a passage, now we're going to move towards finding the main idea. Okay, so the difference between a topic and a main idea are right here on this chart. So the topic, we know, is the big idea or subject that an author writes about. Okay, a main idea is a statement the author makes about the topic and what the text is mostly about. So what is a topic? It is one or two words. In contrast, the main idea is a whole sentence. A topic is a general subject. In contrast, a main idea is complete and more specific. A topic is usually given in the title, and the main idea is usually found in the text. So the example at the bottom, the topic is plants, and the main idea is that plants need 4 things to live. In this lesson, we're going to explore some different ways to try to find the main idea of a passage. Finding the main ideas. Once we found the topic of the paragraph, we can find the main idea. Okay, and if you look right down here at the bottom, the topic, which we know how to find, plus the main point about the topic equals the main idea. First, I'm going to read this passage out loud, and then I want you to think about what the topic of this paragraph would be. Water is an amazing resource. Everyone in the world depends upon it. Every creature needs water to survive. Without water, we would not last long. Water makes our world beautiful. As I read that passage, I noticed that a word was repeated more than 2 times. So I'm going to say that this passage the topic would be water, because there's water, water, and water is mentioned 4 separate times. Okay, so the topic is water. Now, think about the main idea. What was this passage mostly telling us about water? It's telling us that everyone depends on it, every creature needs it. Without water, we wouldn't live very long. Water makes our world beautiful. So when I look here in this paragraph, to me, water is an amazing resource, would be my best guess, based on that word water used repeatedly, for the main idea. So I'm going to now move this, and the main point that they said about the topic is that water is an amazing resource. And that is right in the first sentence, which is often where you will find a main idea, as the first sentence of a passage. Now we're going to look at another way to help you find the main idea, and that is going to be to look at the title of a passage. The first passage we're going to look at is Where Do Bats Sleep? Okay, so notice that I made sure that I read that title and I didn't skip over it. Now that title is already giving me some helpful information. I know that the topic is probably going to be bats, and what the paragraph will probably be telling me is where do bats sleep. So that title is already giving me a good idea of what I will be reading next. Bats are known for flying around at night and sleeping during the day. You may have seen pictures of bats sleeping upside down in caves. Bats have other daytime resting places too. They sleep in trees, in old buildings, and even under bridges. More than 1 million bats sleep under one bridge in Austin, Texas. This colony, or group, contains about as many bats as there are people in the city. So the title, Where Do Bats Sleep, was a good choice because all of the details in the passage are talking about where bats sleep. They sleep upside down in caves. They sleep in trees, in old buildings, and even under bridges. More than 1 million bats sleep under one bridge in Austin, Texas. And so this is all talking about where do bats sleep. All of the details that I highlighted in yellow directly reflect where do bats sleep. So when I'm thinking about the main idea of the passage, would it be bats sleep in many different kinds of places during the day? Or a huge group of bats sleeps under a bridge in Austin, Texas? Okay, well, I already know that this detail right here was only mentioned one time. And that's a detail that's a fun detail for you to know, to read about. What I do know is that the passage did talk a lot about bats sleeping in different kinds of places. So I am going to go with this one as the main idea. Bats sleep in many different kinds of places during the day. Okay, and so here you can see all of these details in this passage directly go with the main idea. You've probably already guessed, but our next passage is going to be about kangaroos. So if you take a look at the picture, because remember, pictures do give us good clues. If you take a look at this picture, I see that there is a kangaroo here. I see the little baby, Joey, poking out of the pouch. And it makes me wonder what the title of this passage would be. So I'm going to read through the passage first, and then we're going to talk about what a good title would be. A female kangaroo has a special fold of skin that forms a pouch. The pouch is like a large pocket on its stomach. When a baby kangaroo or joey is born, it climbs into its mother's pouch. At birth, a joey is only about 1 inch long. It needs to stay in the pouch so it can grow more. After several months, the joey has grown enough to leave the pouch for short periods of time. By the time the joey is 10 months old, it is ready to leave the pouch for good. As I reflect on what that paragraph told me, I did hear a lot of information about the baby kangaroo. I saw that when a baby kangaroo or joey is born, it climbs into its mother's pouch. At birth, a joey is only 1 inch long. It needs to stay in the pouch so it can grow more. Then the joey when it has grown enough, it can leave for short periods of time. And by the time the joey is 10 months old, it's ready to leave the pouch for good. Because this paragraph had so much information about baby kangaroos, I would guess that that is the topic of this paragraph, and I would also guess that it's probably the title. So let's see what the title actually is, and it is Baby Kangaroos. So now knowing the topic, baby kangaroos, we read all kinds of information about it. Now let's think about what would the main idea be. Is it female kangaroos have pouches on their bellies for carrying their young? Or is it a baby kangaroo stays in its mother's pouch until it's strong enough to live on its own? As I think more about this passage, the majority of the paragraph is when the joey stays inside the mother's pouch. So I'm going to go with this first idea. The female kangaroos have pouches on their bellies for carrying their young. But I'm going to check the next one to see if the first choice is better than the second. A baby kangaroo stays in its mother's pouch until it's strong enough to live on its own. Well, I think that was mentioned one time in a sentence. So because the majority of this passage is about the pouch, And look at how many times I can find that in here. Okay, I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 times I heard the word pouch. So again, that's giving me a good idea of what the main idea is. And because I heard the word pouch so many times, I think that pouches in this first choice for main idea would be the main idea of this particular passage.